Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. In this lesson, we'll be analyzing the poem The Sea and the Hills by Rudyard Kipling. So, who had desired the sea, the sight of salt water unbounded, the heave and the halt and the hurl and the crash of the comber wind hounded? The poem opens with a question: who has desired the sea? That is, what kind of people are the ones who feel drawn to the sea? This opening question becomes a refrain, heading up all four stanzas, almost like a call to arms to any and all who those love the ocean. So the speaker follows the question with vivid imagery that conveys the sea's enormity and its capacity for violence. Right away, readers sense that the sea is a force much more powerful than any human being who longs for the sight of salt water unbounded. The speaker asks, that is, who wants to look out at the vast expanse of the open ocean? The sea is unbounded as far as the eye can see. It seems to go on forever, in turn suggesting a sense of freedom and possibility perhaps not available back on land. Okay? So, when the speaker is trying to suggest that the sea is unbounded, he's trying to suggest that it seems to go on and on forever. And with this, he's trying to juxtapose the fact that this is a sense of freedom, this is the sense of possibility, which is not available on land. Then we can see the hissing sibilance of sight of salt. It evokes the salty sea spray being described. Next, the speaker describes a long curling wave, which is also known as a comber. A curling wave, which is known as a comber. Here, what is it? And the hurl and the crash of the comber wind hounded. Okay, na? So this hurl is the twist. Okay, it's the curl. Okay, so the over here is describing the curling wave, that is the comber, which is hounded or hunted by wind. Okay, so there is the heave and the halt. There is the heave, yani ki the rising up of the water, and then the halt, the strange pause that occurs when the wave climbs to its peak. Then there is a pause, then it comes down. Then the hurl, wave as it is thrown down, then there is hurl, there is twisting. Okay, the fine, and then finally there is the crash. So as the wave breaks against the surface. So the speaker is personifying the wind here as a kind of hunter who is chasing the waves, making the scene seem all the more frightening. I mean, there is lot of going on, there's lot of stuff. There is the sea at the moment is full of chaos, and then with it in itself is very active, very violent, and then there are winds are also which are surrounding the sea who had happen to be very violent. So violence is being highlighted through more violence over here. Okay, this suggests that how violent and chaotic the scene can be. The blowing edge alliteration of heave and halt and hurl suggests the great effort, the power it takes to create this incredible sight, while the sharp alliteration of crash and comber of the ker sounds is striking and violent, as I suggested. The line features polysyndeton. Okay, one is asyndeton, which is without conjunctions. It's full of commas. Polysyndeton, which is with conjunctions without commas. The heave and the halt. Polysyndeton, the heave and the halt and the hurl and okay na, and the crash. So and the actions just seem to keep going on and on, and it is piling on top of each other and making the whole image seem overwhelming. Lines 3 and 4. The sleek, unparalleled swell before storm, grey, formless, enormous, and growing. Stark calm on the lap of the line or the crazy eyed hurricane blowing. The speaker offers more imagery that captures the mind boggling power and variety of the sea. Line 3 describes the eerie and evil and threatening swell before a storm. The huge waves that rise foamless and signal a tempest in the sea at distance. Okay, the huge waves, they are rising foamlessly. It is signaling that some sort of thunderstorm is about to come in the distance. So these waves move slowly and without breaking. They lack the white foam of the crashing. Because abhi tak to it hasn't crashed. Cresting wave mentioned in the previous line. Okay, na? So they lack the white foam of the crashing and the cresting wave that is mentioned in the previous line. The speaker calls them sleek barreled. Okay, sleek barreled. And there is something mysterious and monstrous about their glossy smoothness. Perhaps because it belies perhaps because it belies just how violent the coming storm may be. These swells are already enormous and they're also growing, getting even larger. So, once again, the poem uses sibilants to create the watery, windy, stormy atmosphere. Sleek, swell, storm, foamless, enormous. The growing alliteration of grey and growing and the round moaning assonance of foamless and growing add to the scene's intensity as well. Now, the sea isn't all violence and storms. In line 4, the speaker calls readers' attention to the stark calm on the lap of the line. This is an area of calm water near the equator. Lap of the line is is a calm water near the equator. Okay, so the calm is stark, sudden, and perhaps even a bit shocking on the heels of the stormy weather mentioned in the previous lines. So the sea, the poem makes clear, is capable of both chaos and calm. And right after mentioning the calm at the equator, the speaker notes the crazy eyed hurricane blowing. Crazy eyed. It personifies the storm as insane and mad, with the lust of destruction. The harsh k sound in crazy and hurricane evokes this violent power as well. In just one line, then, the reader sees the contradictory nature and ever changing character of the sea. Lines 5 to 7. His sea in no showing the same hissy. Hissy in no showing the same hissy and the same neath each showing. Hissy as she slackens or thrills. So and no otherwise, so and no otherwise, hillmen desire their hill. So in each 7 line stanza, the fifth line states a philosophical paradox about the sea. Remember, in each fifth line of the stanza, in each stanza, the fifth line of that stanza, it states a philosophical paradox about the sea. And to do this, they use the device anti-metaphor, in which the words in the first half of the sentence get repackaged in a different order in the second. Kaise? His sea in no showing the same need each showing. Okay? The same has replaced no showing. Okay? So one is the paradox philosophically in meaning, and that paradox is shown through words as well through anti-metaphor. Okay? Now, these delicate moments try to capture the essential contradictory quality of the sea. Yani ke the sea in itself is paradoxical. Sometimes it is full of chaos, sometimes it is very peaceful. So here the speaker points out that the sea is always in a state of change and yet never uh, fundamentally changes. Okay, he's trying to suggest that the sea is always in a state of change and yet never fundamentally changes. Try to think about it philosophically. देखो इसको philosophical अंदाज में समझो कि the sea is changing. हाँ यानी कि sometimes it is full of chaos, sometimes it is peaceful, but in another manner, philosophically speaking, it is never changing. It fundamentally never changes. क्या मतलब हुआ इसका? इसका मतलब ये हुआ that sea, in being a paradoxical being, it is always somehow chaotic and sometimes peaceful. Therefore, this quality of the sea never changes. Understood? Yani ke the sea has a quality of chaotic, of being chaotic and violent and peaceful as well. But this characteristic of sea never changes fundamentally. Okay? Neath actually might mean under the surface, but it could also mean something more like at the core of its being. Okay, na? Something at the core of its being. The sea is different every time you look at it. Sometimes it is calm, sometimes it is violent, and no parts of it are ever exactly the same. क्या बोला इसने? His sea in no showing the same, which is not same at the time, but his sea, okay, and the same neath each showing. Neath का क्या meaning पता है? At the core it's being, okay. So sometimes it is showing that it is not the same, but at the core of it, at the neath of it, it is always showing that it is the same. I hope you understood this. Okay, so the sea is different every time you look at it. It is sometimes calm, it is sometimes violent, and no parts of it are ever exactly the same. And yet, it is all the sea, ocean, part of the same vast body of water. Okay, na? Yani ke at one part of the sea or the ocean, it can be chaotic. At the other part of the sea or the ocean, it might be peaceful. But throughout, as a whole, it is one vast body of water. So it is different every time, yet somehow it is timeless and unchanging. Because it is always changing. So in that scenario, it is never changing. I hope you understood this. Note how this line and the following line also use the personal possessive pronoun. क्या? His sea. कौन सा? His sea, not the sea. So this suggests a sense of ownership and belonging. That is, this hypothetical him, the person who loves to sail on the sea, feels such deep kinship, relationship with the sea, that it is in a sense a part of him, and he a part of it. He's so close to the sea, he loves that sea so much that it has somehow developed a real relationship with the sea, in a sense that he has become the part of the sea or the sea has become the part of it. Therefore, it is not the sea, but it is his sea. So, in the following line, the poem genders the sea as female, his sea as she slackens or thrills. His she, his sea as she slackens or thrills. Excuse me. Now, this ties in with the use of desired in the first line, suggesting an almost sexual thrill between man and sea. So his sea, when it is presented as she, it is presenting the same desired which was presented in the first line, creating some sort of a relationship between this man and the sea, the way it is present in the between the two genders. So this line also once again depicts the sea as a paradoxical entity. How? It is an environment where contradictory experiences can take place. कैसे? It can slacken, यानी कि grow loose and relax. Slacken का मतलब है cut the slack कहते हैं ना, give him a breather, give him a relaxer. So it can slacken, grow loose and relax, but it can also create adventure, यानी कि it thrills as well. So his sea as she slackens or thrills, again a paradoxical condition. Kaise? That it is an environment which can grow loose and relax, okay, but it can also create an adventure in it, yani कि it can thrill the people. Note too that the sixth line is, as compared to the other lines, very clearly shorter than the rest lines. So this creates an ebb and flow on the page that evokes the movement of the tides and the waves. हम कहते हैं ना, the ebbing of the waves. So ebb means to go back. Okay, so when it is going back, it would come forward as well, the way the movement of the wave is. So this short sentence, short verse, as compared to the longer sentences or verses within a single page, it is creating an ebb of the ocean, ebb and flow on the page of the ocean that evokes the movement of the tides and waves of the ocean. The last line of the opening stanza introduces some new characters. Hillmen. This line, Hillmen desire their hills. Okay, so this line uh, will become another refrain in the poem. Okay, na? Restated at the end of the every stanza. So the first line and the last line, they are becoming the refrain. Okay, so and no otherwise. So and no otherwise. Hillmen desire their hill. There is episixis. Okay, na? There is episixis in the form of so and no otherwise, because it is repeating without any intervention. So this epizeuxis adds weight and emphasis to the speaker's point. This is simply the way things are. Just as some people are drawn to the sea with all its dangers and contradictions, other people long for dry land. So and no otherwise, so and no otherwise. Okay, now. So some people long for the sea, the others would otherwise long for the land. Perhaps these hills offer safety and security and a more stable and predictable kind of life which is not present in the life of the sea. Then you're going to find a polyptoton over here as well. What is polyptoton? I hope you remember it. It is a stylistic scheme in which words derived from the same root are repeated, just like hills and hillman. The root word of the both words is the same. Okay, so it is repeated of hillman and hills. This suggests that the desire for hills is an essential part of who these people are. Okay, na? Because these people are hillmen, so it is obvious that they are going to desire for hills. Okay, na? So this suggests that the desires for hills is an essential part of these hillmen. Okay, because they are hillmen, and if they are hillmen, they're going to desire for hills. So there is no attempt to describe these hills or these people. The lack of description of the hills or the hillmen suggests that the speaker or the poem probably sides with those who desire the sea. The speaker doesn't care about the land. The speaker doesn't care about the hillman or hill. That's why he's not talking about the hillmen or the hills, because he's more siding with the desire for the sea. Lines 8 till 14. Who has desired the sea, the immense and the contemptuous surges, the shudder, the stumble, the swerve, as the star-stabbing bow spirit emerges, the orderly clouds of the trades, the ridge, roaring sapphire thereunder, under unheralded cliff haunting flaws, and the head sails low wallowing thunder. His sea is in no wonder the same. His sea and the same through each wonder. His sea as she rages or stills, so and no otherwise, so and no otherwise. Hillmen desire the so so this second stanza follows the same general format as the first stanza. It opens with the same refrain, who has desired the sea, and then follows this up with the vivid imagery that conveys the sea's powerful and unpredictable nature. First, the speaker notes that the sea contains immense and contemptuous surges. Sometimes the waves of the sea are unfathomably large. Okay, in fact, they are so big and potentially destructive that they seem full of hate. They seem that they are contemptuous. They are carrying some sort of contempt in them to destroy something. Okay, next, the speaker describes a ship being tossed about like a toy as it sails through those surges. The vessel will shudder, it will stumble, it will swerve as its bowsprit. What is a bowsprit? Bowsprit is a long piece of wood that helps support the sail. You must have seen that long piece of wood which is right at the front of the boat or the sail or the ship. Okay, so that vessel, that ship will shudder, it will stumble, it will swerve as its bowsprit, which is a long piece of wood that helps support the sail, it will finally emerge from the water. There is sibilance over here, and this sibilance evokes the spray and the salt as the boat crashes through these wild waves. The immense and contemptuous surges, the shudder, the stumble, the swerve, the star stabbing bow spirit emerges. Okay, the scene is violent and intense. The ship is totally at the sea's mercy, but the ship also seems up to the challenge. The evocative meta, star stabbing bow spirit, refers to the way that the bow spirit forcefully struts up towards the night sky as it emerges from the waves. It went down into the sea, okay, because of the waves, inertia, and then it came back. When it came back, it felt as this star, as a star stabbing bow spirit. As it emerged from the waves, it felt as if its bow spirit is forcefully thrusting up towards the night sky, just like the movement of a sword thrusting towards its opponent. So it takes a hardy boat and by extension a hardy sailor to navigate the sea. बच्चों का खेल नहीं है. So this sailor has to be a very experienced one, and the boat has to be a very sturdy one to navigate the violence of the sea. Yet the sea isn't all chaos. In the next line, the speaker points out the orderly clouds of the trades, a set of winds that reliably blow from east to west near the equator, which are known as the clouds of the trades. So, underneath those is the ridged, roaring sapphire, which is a metaphor conveying how the waves look like a jewelry, या फिर a jeweled mountain peaks in the sun because of its sapphire color. The growing alliteration of ridged roaring of our sound conveys the sea's rage, yet the metaphor also that the sea is beautiful and something to be treasured. Other winds are less orderly. There are the unheralded, cliff haunting flaws or unpredictable gusts of wind that haunt the cliffs along the water. And then there is the low wallowing thunder or the booming thunderous sound of the wind filling a ship's headsail. Look, let me repeat this. Other winds are less orderly. Okay, na? क्या लिखा हुआ है इधर? The orderly clouds are there, the ridge roaring sapphire there. Then unheralded cliff haunting flaws and the head sails low wallowing thunder. So other winds are less orderly because there are the unheralded cliff haunting flaws or unpredictable gusts of wind that haunt the cliffs along the water. And then there is the low wallowing thunder, okay, or the booming or thunderous sound of the wind filling a ship's headsail. The word volley can also mean gunfire, as with star stabbing above. It adds to the scene's sense of danger and excitement. Okay, so again, what is happening over here? The unheralded cliff haunting flaws, which are the unpredictable gusts of wind that haunt. Obviously, previously it was orderly, but now it is going to be unorderly या फिर less orderly because of the haunting flaws of the winds which are unheralded, which are unpredictable, which were not called for, which haunt the cliffs along the water. And then there is the low wallowing thunder or a booming or thunderous sound of the wind filling a ship's head sail. Okay, na? Flaws and the head sails low wallowing thunder. Yani ke when the waves are hitting the head sail. Okay, na? Filling a ship's head sail. So the word volley can also mean gunfire. Okay, it can also be said, and the head sails low wallowing thunder. Yani ki when there it was the unheralded winds resulting in huge waves when they were hitting the ship, then that ship was also attacking the low wallowing thunder. The head sails low, following thunder. The way it roared, the way that ship was star stabbing, the way the bowsprit of that ship was star stabbing, in the same way the head sail of the ship is volleying thunder. The word volley can also mean gunfire. That's why it is a comparison with the star stabbing above. It adds to the scene's sense of danger and the excitement with which the ships are, in a way, corresponding with the ocean. The fifth line of the stanza again is a smaller one. Okay, the speaker again is using an antimetable. Okay, over here. High C, in no wonder the same. Sorry, his C, in no wonder the same. His C and the same through each wonder. Again, there is an antimetable over here. Kaise? The speaker again is using an antimetable, which is a phrase repeated but with the different orders of words, or orders of the words reverse. To illustrate what? To illustrate again the C's paradoxical nature. Thus his sea in no wonder the same, and the same through each wonder. So the sea is filled with wonders, but no two of these wonders are the same. Yani ki there are so many wonders in the sea that no two wonders are the same. Yani कि हर दिन एक नया wonder है, हर दिन एक नई चीज है, and no wonder is as the same or the similar as the previous one. So these wonders might be its sapphire color, the thunderous sound of the crashing waves, and etc. So many to count. Yet the sea itself, its basic essence is always the same, and the same through each wonder. Halaki there are so many wonders, but still it remains the same through each wonder. Okay, so its basic essence is always the same. वो क्या है? It is persisting through each wonder. The sea is always the sea, even if its specific attributes, yani ki the size of its waves, for example, are constantly shifting, still the sea is always the sea. It is always going to remain the sea. Then line 13 hammers home this idea again by personifying the sea as a woman and declaring that she both rages or stills. His sea as she rages or stills. Okay, so sometimes she is vengeful and angry, and sometimes she is calm. Sometimes she rages, and sometimes she is still. So the stanza's final line returns to its refrain, acknowledging that the sea isn't for everyone. Some people prefer a simpler, safer life in the hills. Okay, okay, so and no otherwise, so and no otherwise. इन सब चीजों के बावजूद there will be some hillmen who will always desire the hill. With this, we are going to move on to lines 15 till 18. So, who has desired the sea? Her menaces swift as her mercies, the in-rolling walls of the fog and the silver-winged breeze that disperses. The unstable mind berg going south, and the carvings and the groans that declare it. White water half guessed oversight, and the moon breaking timely to dare it. By now, the reader pretty much knows what to expect with each stanza. Line 15 begins with the same phrase or refrain as all the other stanzas. Who has desired the sea? Before diving into more descriptions of the sea's power. The sea, the speaker says, distributes both menaces as and mercies. Yani ke the sea distributes menaces as swift as her mercies. That is, she is as quick to be cruel as she is to be kind. The words menaces and mercies sounds quite similar, thanks to the alliteration of M in menaces and mercies, and consonants also of C sound in menaces and mercies. So this sonic similarity in turn conveys that these states are two sides of the same easily flipped coin. What could be a matter of life and death to human beings navigating the sea means little to the sea herself, depicted her like a god in the grip of ever-changing modes. Yani कि just like the god is indifferent to human beings when they are navigating through the life, in the same way, the sea is also as indifferent as it. The speaker then gives a concrete example of the sea's volatility. Dense fog sometimes unfurls across the water, obscuring the way and making passage by sea more dangerous. Over here, the in-rolling walls of the fog and the silver-winged breeze that disperses. सही है? So, dense fog sometimes unfurls across the water. And what does it do? It hides, it obscures the way, and in turn making passage by sea more dangerous. The fog is one of those menaces, yet it is easily cleared away by a sweet silver winged breeze that disperses it. Okay, now so this happens in the course of one line. It is hammering how quickly the sea's conditions can change. Again, danger and adventure, chaos and control, both of them exist side by side in the sea. The poem then moves on to icebergs, hulking, unstable slabs of ice that slowly drift south. Now, their sounds, carvings, and groans, they precede them. हाँ, आपको पता है ना आइसबर्ग टूटने से पहले उसकी क्रैकिंग की साउंड आती है. So the sounds of the bergs, the icebergs, of the carvings and the groans, they precede them as they float in the water like a warning. Carving refers to the huge chunks of ice sliding off an iceberg. Next, the speaker focuses on how the sea can be read for clues to help navigation. क्या है वो? White water, half guessed overside, and the moon breaking timely to bear it. White water suggests the breaking of the waves, जिसकी वजह से foam बनता है, which in turn might tell a sailor that there is a reef or rock nearby, जिसकी वजह से constant क्या हो रहा है? कांस्टेंट स्मैशिंग हो रही है वाटर की रॉक के साथ, जिसकी वजह से वाटर फोमी हो जाएगा और वाइट हो जाएगा. तो सर सेलर कांट बी श्योर, दे ओनली कैन हाफ गेस. लेकिन उसके अंदर होता क्या है? बट द मून कम्स आउट just in time to eliminate and reveal the sea's warning, to bear or expose it. So one might read this as the sea toying, playing with humanity, putting it in danger and then helping it also is to escape that danger. Alternatively, it is just the sea being the indifferent sea it is. Lines 22 till 25. Who has desired the sea, her excellent loneliness, rather than four courts of kings and her outermost pits, than the streets where men gather inland amongst dust under trees, inland where the slayer may slay him, inland out of reach of her arms, and the bosom whereon he must lay him. Now, the desire for the sea, the speaker continues, is something that has passed down from one generation to the next. His sea, as his fathers have did, his sea, as his children shall did it. So, it is this desire for the sea has been passing down from one generation to the next. There always have been and there will always be people who feel called to the water. The speaker is saying this. Again, the speaker describes an unspecified male figure whose identity is wrapped up in the sea. He got his taste for the sea from his ancestors and he'll pass it on to his children. Okay. So the repetition of dared and dare reminds the reader that it is the sense of risk that makes the sea so attractive. Those who desire the sea, the poem insists, are bold and brave. Indeed, they have to be. Okay, na? Bold and brave because the sea might serve or the sea might kill them as well. People might have great adventures on the sea, and in the past, they might have attained great riches. but each voyage could always be their last. Whether the sea serves or kills is ultimately up to the sea. Now, line 21 repeats the same line as, line 24 repeats the same line as all the others, acknowledging that some people prefer a life. I'm sorry. It is line 21. This line 21, it repeats. Sorry, sorry. There is some problem over here. Yes, I have in a way missed one of the stanzas over here. Let me write down the stanzas over here. Wait a minute. So I will repeat this stanza. His sea as his fathers have dared, his sea as his children shall dare it. His sea as she serves him or kills, so and no otherwise, so and no otherwise, hillmen desire their hills. So the desire for the sea, the speaker continues, is something that has passed down from one generation to the next. There always have been and there will always be people who feel called to the water, the speaker says. Again, the speaker describes an unspecified male figure whose identity is wrapped up in the sea. He got his taste from the sea from his for the sea from his ancestors, and he'll pass it on to his children. So his sea, as his fathers have dared, his sea as his children shall dare it. The repetition of dare, okay, dared and dare. The repetition of dare and dare reminds the reader that it is the same sense of risk that makes the sea so attractive. Those who desire the sea, the poem insists, are bold and brave. But the same thing can kill them also. That's why it is a need that they have to be bold and brave, because the sea might serve or kill them. Okay, the people might have great adventures on the sea, and in the past they might have attained great riches, but each voyage could always be their last. Whether the sea serves or kills is ultimately up to the sea. Now, line 21, so and no otherwise, so and no otherwise, hillmen desire their hills. It repeats the same line as all the other stanzas have, acknowledging that some people refer a life inland, okay, na? And some more stable, secure, and predictable. So, the excitement with which the poem discusses the sea versus the dull lines about the hills suggests that the speaker relates more to the adventurous type. With this, we're going to move on to line 22 till 25. Who has desired the sea, her excellent loneliness, rather than four courts of kings, and her outermost pits than the streets where men gather inland among dust under trees, inland where the slayer may slay him, inland out of reach of her arms, and the bosom whereon he must lay him. So, in the first stanza, in the final stanza, the speaker juxtaposes life of sea with life on land. Some people prefer the sea's excellent loneliness, the kind of total solitude found on the open ocean, far from the cares of daily life, over life at the royal court. Yani ke they like this life, the solitude that is found in the open sea, okay na? And the life of the sea, which is without the cares of the daily life in the land. Some people prefer it over the life in the royal court. They would take the furthest reaches of the sea over the streets where the men gather inland. And if for them, the furthest reaches of the sea would always be more preferable than the streets where the men gather inland. So the poem depicts the inland world as hectic and draining. The four cuts of kings and the streets where men gather suggest the hustle and bustle of human society and all the complications that come with it. By implication, the sea, even though it too is a complex entity, offers something simpler, freer, and perhaps more honest. On land, among dust, under trees, the poem's hypothetical male figure could be in danger. On land, amongst the dust and under the trees, the hypothetical male figure of the poem could be in danger. It is where the slayer may slay him. यानी कि dangerous though it may be, the sea also offers an escape from the risk entailed by living among other people. यानी कि कम से कम sea के अंदर the people are not risked by other people. लेकिन लैंड के अंदर तो देर आर द रिस्क विद लिविंग इन अमंग अदर पीपल एज वेल. So the sea might toss your boat around, but it won't stab you in the back the way the people living in the inland would do. The speaker personifies the sea again as a female figure throughout this stanza, building to the image of line 25. Inland, out of reach of her arms and the bosom whereon he must lay him. Back on land, far from the shore, people are out of reach of the sea's comfort. Okay, na? Inland, who are out of the reach of her arms, yani ki the arms of the sea, and the bosom whereon he must lay him, they are actually the people who are living on the land, far from the shore, they are out of reach of the sea's comfort. They can't be wrapped up in the arms of the sea, okay, na? Or rest their weary heads on the chest of the sea. Lines 26 till 28. His sea from the first that betrayed, at the last that shall never betray him. His sea that his being fulfills, so and no otherwise, so and no otherwise, hillmen desire their hills. So, line 26, like the fifth line of all the stanzas that came before, makes a philosophical statement about the relationship between humankind and the sea. Kaise? His sea, says the speaker, has betrayed him from the first. That is, it has always been a dangerous place. The sea has always been a dangerous place, never offering true loyalty or security. ऐसा नहीं है that sea is ever going to offer you true loyalty or security, but at the last it shall never betray him. हाय हाय अजीब सी बात. यानी कि history from the first that betrayed, at the last that shall never betray him. ओके, ये हो क्या गया? एक तो ये एंटी मेटाबोल भी हो गया, ओके, और इस एंटी मेटाबोल के थ्रू एक फिलोसफिकल लेसन भी हो गया. कैसे? His sea, says the speaker, has betrayed him from the first sea, but at the last it shall never betray him. यानी कि this prediction या फिर this ideology about the sea that it can any time be very raging and take your life away, that idea is always present. Okay, na? The sea might be slippery and unpredictable, but it will also always be there. दो आइडियोलॉजीज हो गई. यानी कि एक तो द सी विल ऑलवेज बी देयर, दैट्स व्हाई इट इज नेवर गोइंग टू बिट्रे यू. ऐसा नहीं कि सी खत्म हो जाएगा जैसे कि लैंड खत्म हो जाता है. लेकिन दूसरा क्या है कि इन अ वे दैट sea from the first that betray, the sea can betray you by taking away your life, but at the last that shall never betray him. But in a way, by taking the life of the person also, he will not be betraying. The sea will not be betraying the person because it was already predictable that the sea can take away the life of the person because it is never loyal or secure. I hope you understood this. The speaker previously talked about four courts of kings, busy streets, and potential slaves. By saying the sea will never betray people in the end, the speaker hints that the sea is ultimately nobler than the humanity itself. Then the last line, second last line, the sea fulfills some people's being. In other words, it makes them who they are. It gives them purpose and makes life worth living for them. So some human beings long for the sea's danger and volatility, and they wish to sail the seas to satisfy their spirit of adventure. Others, however, prefer the stability offered by the land. With this, we're going to move on to the theme. The first theme is the power, beauty, and the chaos of the sea. So, the sea and the hills present the sea as a fearsome, magnificent force that people rightly marvel at but can't predict or master. In illustrating that the sea and perhaps nature in general can be utterly ferocious, the poem further suggests that those who attempt to cross it would do well to anticipate and respect the sea's angry mood. In other words, It is never certain what version of sea people are going to get, angry or loving, chaotic or calm. Its might dwarfs humanity's own and inspires a sense of overwhelming awe. The second theme is the longing for danger and adventure. In addition to painting a vivid portrait of the sea, the poem also zooms in on the kind of person the sea appeals to and the kind of person who would rather stick to dry land. The speaker repeatedly asks who has desired the sea. That is, the poem wonders who would ever long to set sail on such an unpredictable, powerful entity. The answer the poem implies is that sea is wild, ever-changing natures cast a spell over those with a taste for excitement and exploration. It offers them the chance for adventure that simply doesn't exist on solid ground. But with that adventure comes grave danger as well. So people want what they want, the poem implies. Their yearning for safety or adventure are built into who they are, and people are content only when honoring to their true nature. So the poetic devices and figurative language. Alliteration, we have already dealt with it, imagery as well, and personification, refrain, sibilance, and anaphora. Okay, these are all the literary devices which have been found in this poem, and we have talked about all of them. With this, we are going to move to the form of the poem. The Sea and the Hills contains four seven-line stanzas, which are also known as septets. Though the poem doesn't follow a set form like a sonnet, it is nevertheless tightly organized and controlled. For one thing, a steady rhyme scheme divides each seven-line stanza, that is septet, into two couplets that sandwiched a tercet. Yani ke first two lines of every stanza is a rhyming couplet, and the last two lines of every stanza is a rhyming couplet. And these two rhyming couplets are sandwiching a three-line stanza. Understood? So the length of the poem's rhyming section subtly ebbs and flows, perhaps calling to the mind the movement of the tides which also ebb and flow. Likewise, the poem's long and sweeping lines evoke the vast reaches of the sea. The poem is also intensely repetitive in terms of both its language and imagery. Most obviously, each stanza opens and closes with the same refrain. Okay, these refrains create familiarity, the poem becoming a rousing call to the arms for all the lovers by its end. The lines between those refrains feature clear parallelism as well. The middle lines of the first three stanzas all follow this pattern. The, and then his sea. The fifth line of each stanza offers a philosophical statement about the contradictory nature of the sea, जो कि हम पढ़ चुके हैं. The sixth line in each stanza is also a shorter line than all the rest. It is succinctly, indirectly, secretly juxtaposing two facets of the sea's nature. The final stanza changes things up a bit, but generally sticks to the rhythms established by the rest of the poem. All in all, the poem's sweeping circular form creates a sense of swirling, repetitive, endless motion that evokes the unbounded majesty of the sea. Meter. The Sea and the Hills is a very musical poem, even if it is meter isn't always exact. The first line of each stanza consists of a dactyl which is stressed, unstressed, and unstressed, and then trochees which are stressed and unstressed. Who has the how who had desired the sea, the sight of salt water unbounded? For the most part, the rest of the lines in each stanza use anapes. Okay, now which are unstressed, unstressed, and then stressed, and then iams which are unstressed and stressed. Just like the heave and the halt, okay, and the hurl and the crash of the comber and comber wind hounded. Okay, like the shudder, the stumble, the swerve as the star stabbing bow spirit emerges. Okay, so there is no one correct way to break this meter up. However, and what matters is how it sounds. Read aloud, there is a clear rhythm at play. The poem pulls readers this way and that, evoking the heave and lurch of the waves. Then rhyme scheme. The sea and the hills has a very regular rhyme scheme. Each stanza opens and closes with a rhyming couplet. Sandwich between these is a tercet. That is also rhymed. The pattern then becomes AABBCC and then DDEEFF and so on. The clear and full rhymes add to the poem's exciting music. Subtly, the rhymes also mimic the motion of the sea. The rhyme scheme expands and then contracts over and over again, much as waves roll in and out. With this, we're going to move on to the literary context. Kipling traveled widely on the seas, both as a child and an adult, perhaps explaining his grasp of such specific details as the different stages of a comber, which is a wave, in line 2. So the sea and the hills has more in common with the rhymes and rhythms of Victorian era poets. The sea, of course, has long held a mysterious allure for humankind and has been the subject of countless works of literature such as Homer's Odyssey and Melville's Moby Dick. With this, we're going to end this lesson. I hope you've understood this. Please feel free to ask if there are any questions.